the United States, the Fed, released their CPI report of 7.9% inflation year over year for the month of February. So that's a 40-year high, and it did not include items such as meat, fish, eggs, gas, electricity, and even including eating at home. So a lot of crazy stuff here. And then we also had the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, great lady, come in front of everybody and in front of cameras and say that the inflationary pressures have gone down month to month. Even though last month, wasn't it like 7%, and now it's 7.9. But the math doesn't really check out here. I'm not a math guy or anything like that, but I don't know. So tell me, how are you feeling about, I guess, like overall Bitcoin and overall, like, inflation? Because generally people kind of view Bitcoin as like an inflation hedge and whatnot. I don't know. I feel like the case for Bitcoin is stronger now than ever. But what are your thoughts on this CPI print?
I think you're 100% right. I think that I think a couple of things about this. So you were good enough to send me the CPI line by line here. Len is in the chat asking us to do a breakdown. We don't have that kind of time, and I'm not interested in talking about these fudge numbers line by line. But the interesting thing about CPI, and I think that we talk about this on our show too, and you guys have talked about it. We've talked about it many times in our group chat. Like everyone's starting to realize this stuff is bullshit, right? That's the problem that these guys are having now. So, we can talk about how maybe it wasn't so egregiously fudged like 20, 30, 40 years ago, like in the 80s. But like, what do you really think it wasn't? Am I alone? And you know what I mean? It was. The problem is there was no Twitter and no memes, right? And so now I think personally, there was a missed opportunity the last couple of days with the CPI thing, because I think that every time the CPI print comes out now, we should tweet pictures of like whatever the female statesman emoji is, and then the two fists side by side for Pelosi, like this at the because I think that's basically the only people who are excited about these numbers who think they're legit. I would also note that the White House is in the middle of a war posture with Ukraine and Russia and all this stuff going on in Europe. And still, our favorite press secretary has time to film these well-edited Hollywood quality videos about like what inflation is, why gas prices are higher. Does she think no one knows this? And then Biden today, like the Biden Twitter account, whatever, the marionette handler there is he's got the fucking sticks on top of him. He's tweeting out, oh, the war is what's causing the gas prices to be. The numbers are pre-invasion, man. Next month is when you're gonna see the numbers for the invasion. So when these guys are talking about this stuff, it's the core of the problem is the same thing. Either they are stupid or they are lying. And I think it's the second one. And worse, the target audience for that is really the average voter. What does that tell you about what the average voter knows and thinks? It doesn't say much for them, does it? And I look at like the feedback in the comments to the Biden tweets and the Psaki tweets, and it's all like, oh, you guys are it's just golf claps and emojis and like, guys, gas is going to be $10 a gallon over there inside of 2 months, and they're going to blame it on Putin. I'm not saying it has nothing to do with the Russian war. Of course it does. But it's the straw that broke the camel's back. These guys are at the same time when inflation is running hot talking about, what's that omnibus bill that they just passed or made it through 2,700 pages? Who read that? No one read that. You can't tell me that these guys are so engaged. Like they're like the Adderall consumption on the Hill is so out of control that these geriatrics have time to decide what the next move is in a hot war in Europe with a nuclear power on the continent, and also read a 2,700 page, something trillion dollar. It's so obviously bullshit. And these numbers really, like, they tell the whole story. And you didn't even mention owner's equivalent rent, which is the biggest travesty in all this stuff. Not only does that number not include housing and food that actually is like good for you, but owner's equivalent rent is a bullshit metric. It's what people who don't own homes think the homes are worth, and they get that number from people who do own homes talking about what they would rent it for. Why don't you just use the price of the homes? The price of the homes is available. The reason they don't use it is because it's a ridiculous farce. And they know that what they're doing is dishonest, but that's how you get to where you are now. That's how you get to, Biden, his State of the Union there claps every 20 seconds for stuff that has no real meaning. And now these numbers and gas prices, home prices, student loans on hold. I can go on and on. It's messy, man. And it's not going to get any better anytime soon.